Shabbos Shuva this week gets its name from the opening words of the Haftarah, Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha, which is the closing lines of the book of Hosea, where the Novi tells Klal Yisrael, return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ki choshalta ba'avonecha. The word choshalta means you have stumbled. The implication is that whatever you've done wrong has been done in some sense inadvertently, simply by lack of focus, by lack of understanding, and the way back is open for every individual of Klal Yisrael to find their way back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a really classic, beautiful, optimistic, and powerful theme which accompanies us on this particular Shabbos. But I'd like to say something about this Shabbos, which has a particular, I think, significance, not just for this time of year, but in general. And that is, we find in L'chododi that the author of L'chododi says, Likra Shabbos l'chuva neilcha, ki hi mekoir habracha. He defines Shabbos as mekoir habracha, the source of all blessing. And this is an interesting poetic expression of an idea we find in Chazal, that anything that is of any spiritual significance, which is going to happen during the forthcoming week, has its shorish, it has its root in the previous Shabbos. Every Shabbos is the Mekoir HaBracha for the forthcoming week. In other words, Shabbos is also the seventh day of the past week, but it's also the first day, spiritually speaking, of the forthcoming week. And it contains within it Bekoyach, if not Bepoyah, potential, like the tree is already contained within the seed, so anything spiritually significant in the forthcoming week is already contained in the previous Shabbos. And that's why the Shabbos before Yom Kippur has got a special status in the Jewish calendar, and it has a special night. Shabbos Shuva is because we are now preparing the ground for that wonderful and gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us, which is Yom Kippur. The same is true, incidentally, about Shabbos HaGodol, the other Shabbos, which is given a special name, because it is the Shabbos before the Leil Seder. The Shabbos HaGodol contains within it the ruchnius, the spiritual power, and the spiritual magic, if you like, of Leil Seder is already bekoyach potentially in the Shabbos before it. And that is part of the beauty of the idea of Shabbos, that it lays the groundwork for a spiritually inspirational and powerful new week. Why Shabbos HaGodol and Shabbos Shuva? Now this is something very interesting. And it's connected to the idea that we all know, that in our Nusach, twice a year we say the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, once on Leil Seder and once at Ne'ilah. And this is because of a discussion in the Gemara, which takes in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph, between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, where Rabbi Yeshua says that the Geula, the eventual redemption for Klal Yisrael, will be in Nisan. And Rabbi Eliezer says the eventual Geula will be in Tishri. And this is a debate, and they bring various different sources and proofs, etc. But this remains an unresolved open question, that will the Geula, will the ultimate redemption of Klal Yisrael take place in Nisan or in Tishri? And this sounds to, and of course if that's true, then it's Leil Seder or Ne'ilah. These are the two peak spiritual moments of the year within that framework. The question though is, what does this mean? What is the deep understanding of this? So I saw in the writings of Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen that he says that actually it's very clear what this means. Pesach and Leil Seder is about Yetzias Mitzrayim, which was a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Isarusa de Le'elah, meaning it came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu even though we didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve all the Nisim. This was because of the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had for the Jewish people, the love for Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the love for Eretz Yisrael. All this came to a head on Yetzias Mitzrayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Egypt, even though we were a memtes sharei tumah, we didn't deserve it at all. We didn't do tshuva, we didn't do anything. We just lechtech achrei b'midbar, we followed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that was our credit. But actually, the moment of Pesach is about ahava, is about the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us, which is Shir Hashirim, that's Pesach. When it comes to Tishri, we're on a different system. And the system is tshuva. This system is self-awareness, spiritual growth. It's about personal development. It's about getting closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's about Shuva Yisrael Ar Hashem Elokecha. It's about finding our way back to a deeper spiritual life. That, says Rabbi Eliezer, that is going to be the basis of the ultimate redemption of Klal Yisrael. So the debate between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua is about, will the ultimate redemption take place to an undeserving world, to undeserving nation of Israel, who have not done tshuva at all, or will it take place only after Klal Yisrael have done tshuva, have come to an awareness, have come to their senses, and come to closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to a life of Torah and mitzvahs? That's the debate, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua, and both are true. Both are true at the same time. In other words, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua are not actually debating the dates of the calendar. They're debating their understanding of the Geula itself, but that is what's happening on and this is Shabbos HaGadol and Shabbos Shuva. Both of them contain within them the Shoresh HaGeula, the roots of the ultimate redemption of Klal Yisrael and of the world. And this Shabbos, that's what's so special about Shabbos Shuva, that we already can feel in our Neshama, we can feel the stirrings of Yom Kippur, that great gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us every year. I'd like to add to this a very beautiful idea that I saw in the Shla HaKodesh, where he says that this time of year, these, if you like, 22 days, from Rosh Hashanah all the way up to Shmini Atzeres, these days of the year, these are really the engine room, spiritually, of the whole forthcoming year. In other words, it's during this time of year that we are recharging our batteries, our spiritual batteries. The Neshama gets plugged in and is recharged during this time of year. And he says what you should do is you should have in mind the whole year. There are 4 words in the Shemona Esrei that we say in every single Shemona Esrei, 365 days a year, which are a veiled reference to this idea. And they are as follows. In the first bracha of the Shemona Esrei, we say Melech, Ozer, Umoshia, Umogen. Right? We describe HaKadosh Baruch Hu in 4 different nuances. The Melech, the Ozer, Moshiach, and Mogen. What does this mean? So he says it's very simple. Melech is, of course, Rosh Hashanah. That is the day of Malchus Shemayim. That's K'dei Tamlichuni Alecha. We blow the shofar to announce Malchus Shemayim, and we speak about Maloch al Kol Kula B'chveidecha, the Yinosei al Kol B'yikarecha. The Malchus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is tangible on Rosh Hashanah. And then there is Oizer. Oizer means HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us, which means this is a reference to the time that we're in at the moment, the Aseres Yemei Tshuva, that we get a special assistance from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that the spiritual life and the essence of our Neshama is a bit more accessible. It's a bit more sensitive. It's open to growth. It's open to development. That's the Oizer. That's the special assistance we get during the Aseres Yemei Tshuva. And then there is Moshiach. Moshiach means Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu saves us. We get an atonement for our Aveirus. And Klal Yisrael are in that way brought close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a uniquely powerful way. At the time of the Beis HaMikdash, it was the Kohen Gadol going into the Kodesh Kodashim. But after the Beis HaMikdash, it's us standing in Tefillah on Yom Kippur. And this is the Moshiach. And then there is the Mogen. The Mogen is simply a shield to protect us, and that is the Schach of the Sukkah, is the Mogen. Says the Shla HaKadosh, Melech, Ozer, Moshiach, Mogen, all through the year you should have in mind that you are drawing on the source of spiritual energy that you generated during this time of year. These are the 3 weeks from Rosh Hashanah till Shmini Atzeres, where we can recharge our spiritual batteries, and this is a beautiful idea. One final idea I want to leave you with, and that is regarding Yom Kippur itself. That we have a whole Masechta in Shas, a whole volume called Yuma, which deals with Yom Kippur. Yuma, in fact, the word Yuma simply means the day. But in the vocabulary of Chazal, when they spoke about the day, there was only one day they were talking about, and that is Yom Kippur, the Yom HaKadosh, the day of the highest level of Kedusha. And what's interesting is that it's a very complicated Masechta. Right? It's 8 chapters of Mishnah and over 80 daf of Gemara, going into every detail of the Kohen Gadol and the Beis Hamikdash and aspects of the Kohen Gadol and the way he brought the Karbonos and the Shnei Seirim and the Soil Azazel and the Achas v'Shtayim and the taking the Ketores into the Kodesh Kedoshim, and a very complicated, the most complicated rituals in the Beis Hamikdash were of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, and that is 7 out of the 8 chapters deal with that, and the 8th chapter deals with our Yom Kippur. What are the restrictions of Yom Kippur for us, for future generations? What's interesting is, what is the closing line of the whole Mishnah? The closing line of the Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. And the last Mishnah, the last words of the last Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva says, okay, we've learned all about Yom Kippur, we've learned all about the Kohen Gadol, Beis Hamikdash, etc., etc., and he ends up by saying, Ashreichem Yisrael. Ashreichem Yisrael. It has to be a day of happiness. Lifnei mi atem metaharim, umi metahar eschem. Where are we getting our purity from? Where are we getting our tahara from? From HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avinu Shebashamayim. And he quotes a pasuk in the Navi, where he's a bit of a play on words. Because the Navi says, Mikveh Yisrael Hashem, where Mikveh comes from the word Tikva, which means the hope. The hope of Klal Yisrael is in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us hope. But he says Mikveh also means a mikveh. Mikveh Yisrael Hashem means, so he goes on to say in the Mishnah, Ma mikveh matayas hatameim, just like a mikveh, if you immerse yourself in it fully, totally and utterly, it can remove all impurities. Kacha HaKadosh Baruch Hu matayas Yisrael. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu cleanses us on Yom Kippur. So what's he doing here, Rabbi Akiva? It's worth mentioning that Rabbi Akiva lived in the post-Holocaust generation after the Churban. And you would have thought he would end up by saying, it's terrible, terrible. We lost the Beis Hamikdash, and we've lost all the Kohen Gadol, and the Ketores, and the Shnei Seirim, but we're left with Yom Kippur, so make the best of it. He doesn't. He says, he doesn't relate to that at all. He says, the real Kedusha is between us and Hashem. On Yom Kippur, we are immersing ourselves, like in a mikveh. We're immersing ourselves completely in a world of Kedusha, and that brings us a purity which is unequaled all year round. And that is the Moshiach, that is the Yom HaKodesh, which has the power to really renew our Neshama and re-energize us for the forthcoming year. And it only remains for me to wish everybody who are the listeners and the recipients of these Divrei Torah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should send us all a year of Geula, of Yeshua, should send us a year really, Sheyiftach Lanu Tzoros HaTov. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us all the great brachas that we daven for, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should protect all our chayalim and chayalot every day of the week. They're in danger. They're protecting Klal Yisrael in their avodas hakodesh, and should give a refuah shalema to the wounded and the chatufim, and the hostages, and the Be'ez Hashem. This should be a year really where we see the whole of Am Yisrael receiving a great influx of spiritual and physical help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sheyiftach lanu b'sach lanu shar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should open up his gates and give us these brachos, v'yimaleh Hashem mishalos lebeinu l'tova, and give us for the forthcoming year the brachos which are built into the Shabbos Shuva, to the Yom Kippur, and to the Lashana Haba b'Yerushalayim. Amen.